This is the Phoenix mind, where the fire refines, break the chains and rise to shine. Rise stronger, lead with heart, every end a brand new start. With Lisa Manzo, we transform, we ignite. This is the Phoenix mind.
Hi, this is Lisa Manzo, and welcome to the Phoenix Mind Podcast, where we talk through the inner work. And today I have a special guest. His name is Andy Nam, and I'm going to read you his bio. Andy Nam is a functional, nutritional, and longevity coach, best-selling author, and host of Chronically Healthy Life and Chronic Health Collective. He helps people break free from chronic conditions and feel younger, stronger, and more energized naturally. With a passion for biohacking, stem cell activation, and practical wellness strategy, Andy makes healthy living simple, sustainable, and even a little fun. He's all about helping people thrive, not just survive. And I'm going to just welcome Andy to the podcast right now. Here's Andy. Hi, Andy.
Hi, Lisa. Thank you for having me on your show.
This is so awesome. I just like to bring people on my show who have because everybody has a story, right? I like to bring people on the show, the people that have had overcome some difficult stuff in their life, and let them share, because we always think that we're alone. And when I was going through my stuff, I was always thinking, I'm so alone, I'm so alone. And then when I started talking to people, and I heard like, oh yeah, me too, that happened to me. Oh yeah, me too. And so I want people to know they're not alone. So I'm bringing on people like you to tell their story. So I'm going to let you tell a little bit of you, or a lot of your story, whatever you feel like. Tell my guests who you are and some of the stuff that you've overcome, because you have a story and it's brought you to where you are today. So tell us about that.
I love that. Thank you, Lisa. So, I guess my story started quite a while ago. It started in my teens, my actually graduating year of high school. And I had, I was visiting my then girlfriend, driving through a traffic light, and out of the blue, a 1-ton truck comes rushing down the hill and T-bones me right through the intersection. And, everything just happened so fast that I didn't even, I don't even remember what happened, that these are what the police reports and everything tells me. And I later on take a look at my car to find out how bad the accident was. But essentially, this accident, it fractured, my neck. It sort of like bent my back a little bit, like, broke a bunch of bones, internal injuries, dislocated my ankles. My knees. It's like, it was, a crapshoot, excuse my language. But, luckily I was 18, right? So you would think that because this happened young enough that you recover. And, in the next 15, 20 years, that just wasn't the case.
So why do you say you were lucky that you were 18? Clarify that for me, because it's
I think a lot, the funny thing is a lot of people, and this is not what I believe anymore, but a lot of people think that when you're younger, you'll be able to recover faster. They think that as you're getting older, you just don't have that healing ability anymore. Right. And, and I believed that for so long of my life, for the first 40 years. I believe as I got older, it's because of my age that, it's just going to take longer to recover. And the injuries I sustained 20 years ago was just aging my body so much faster. Like by the time I was 40, I was in so much pain. I relied on prescription pain medication. Like, you're a nurse, so, I was taking Vicodin just to get out of bed every day.
wow.
Right. And, and when I'm saying getting out of bed, I was literally rolling out of bed. I couldn't sit up in bed. Like, that's how much pain I was. And yet, when I'm out and about, no one knows my pain, right? Like, I'm hiding it in front of everybody.
You can't
But
see it.
like,
You can't see it.
you can't see it. Like, we can hide things really well. Like, I'm walking in pain. I had so much dysfunction in my gut from all the medication I was taking. I had, starting getting brain fog. But what really was starting to get to me was, that girlfriend that I was driving to that I got in a car accident. Well, I married her. She ended up being my wife. And so we've been together for so long, but what I was noticing was all this pain, even though I thought I was managing it well, I was just mad all the time, right? Like, not at anyone in general, but because I was just in so much pain, it was, my relationship was starting to suffer, right? You know what I'm saying? And it just got to a point is like, what's going to change? And then I approach my doctors and stuff and I say, hey, look, like I've been suffering for the last 20 years now. What's going to change? When's it going to get better? And he's like, hey, Andy, you're doing pretty good already. It's like it can only go downhill from here. And that's really when I shifted is at that point. I said, look, enough is enough. That's when I gave up on, Western medicine and just started looking for a solution to start healing myself.
That's so, and here's a great thing. Just want to bring this out, and everyone's different, and everybody takes a different amount of time. So finally, after 20 years, you said there has to be another way, right? To yourself.
There just has to be, and I'd like to share a short little story. Well, actually, I'll let you ask the question first, but I just wanted to share what turning point really got me to change.
Well, go ahead.
My mindset.
Tell us.
Yeah,
what turning point got you to change?
The funny thing is, and I think a lot of you viewers can probably, attest to this. A lot of us, we're taught to work hard, make as much money as you can, and then retire comfortably, right? Like that's just the way we're brought up. You're supposed to have your picket fence, your house, your car, marry a beautiful husband, wife, or whatever. And then retire, have kids, grandchildren, and so on. But the main thing is work hard to make a lot of money. Like that is the thing. And the funny thing is, for the 20 years, like when I got my car accident, and my orthopedist, like because they're looking at my spine and everything. At 21, he already told me that from the injuries you got, by the time you're 30, 40, you're gonna have a body of a 70-year-old. Right. Imagine being told that when you're 21, when you're technically should be at your prime. And of course, during that time, I thought this guy was full of crap. But over the years, I'm taking more and more medication. I started getting worried, right? So I was putting in a lot more work because I thought for most people, you got 40 years to you're 60 to make all the money you can. I figured, well, I only got 20 years to make all the money I can. So like I was just burning the wick at both ends, doing my own business, just hustling and so many things. And, we did pretty well. Like by 30s or 40s, I bought my dream car. And this is where my turning point really is. So when my wife and I were still boyfriend and girlfriend in high school, she used to carry this car and driver magazine. And for people that don't read magazines anymore, it's a car, it's a fast car magazine, right? And she'll carry the same magazine, like the same issue, right? Along with her all the time. And I was like, what the hell? Like, you got new issues every month. But on the cover of that magazine was a Lotus Esprit Turbo. Like, this is 1988, right? A Lotus. And she says, this is my dream car. I will marry you if you ever get me my dream car. And of course, when you're in grade 12, you're nonchalant. I'm trying to get this girl, this hot girl. I was like, yeah, I'll get you your Lotus, right? Even though back then it was already like $80,000 back in 1988.
Oh, wow.
But, in our 30s, like we're hustling, business was doing well. During that time, I was actually in a different business altogether. I was in automotive. But anyways, we did well enough that on our 35th birthday, I actually got her a Lotus. Like, of course, it wasn't a Esprit. They came up with a smaller model. It's called the Lotus Elise, but I got her a Lotus. So, in my mind, I said, look, I fulfilled my promise. I got her a Lotus. And for the people out there, if you're not familiar with what a Lotus Elise is, it's literally like a little Ferrari. Okay, it's like when you sit down, you literally drop into the seat, and you're literally like riding on the ground. Like that's how low this thing is. Right. So, in my mind, I fulfilled my dream. I got my, my beautiful wife, the dream car she wanted. But by the time I was 35, my health was so bad, I could barely get in and out of the car. So we had the car. I tell you, we had the car for 8 years, and we maybe drove it maybe a total of 10,000 miles. And the turning point of this was, me and my wife will go somewhere nice. We're driving up in this nice, hot, sports car. She gets out of the car easily, and I couldn't get out of the car. Like literally, I had to like grab on the roof on the car, and I'm pulling myself out of the car. And in my mind, it's like I was just so embarrassed that, like, in my mind, I thought I was very successful. We got a nice car. We're making decent money, but it's like this is so embarrassing to get out of the car. And then we ended up selling the car, and that was really the turning point of my life. And that's it.
I
Since we
have a
sold our
question
dream
for
car.
you. I have a
Yeah.
question for you. So in that moment, right, when you're there
Hmm.
and because you're being really vulnerable, and thank you for that because I don't want a small car. I want to get an SUV because I'm a little older than you and it's easier to get in and out of. So I understand. I don't have any problem getting in and out of a car, but I just want to make my life easier. But in that moment, when you were getting it out of that car, and did you see any patterns or any beliefs that you had to just let go of in order to move on?
At that point, it was enough was enough. Something just got to change, right? Like I've been being told that I can't do this, I can't do that. My health is only going to get worse. This is normal for the type of damage you had to your body. And, I was believing that for 20 so odd years.
Yeah.
And it got to the point that, oh my gosh, it's like, there's just something that's got to change because in my mind is like I couldn't envision what the next 5 years is going to be like with my wife, right? You know what I'm saying? It's like here we are, we're doing fairly comfortable with our finances, and we're in a pretty good space, but I'm angry all the time, right? So I have a short temper. I married my high school sweetheart, and and the funny thing is, in my head, I was becoming my dad, which was angry all the time, and I was not cool with that.
Oh yeah.
Right. So like the belief is I'm turning into my dad, I'm turning my dad, and it's like I love my dad, don't get me wrong. But my mom and dad never had a good relationship, and they never found love again until his dying days in the last 5 years of his life. So,
Uh-huh.
I did not want a relationship based on that type of anger and just being together just for the sake of being together. So
Okay. So you hit the 20-year mark, right? You're getting out of that car and you're like, okay, something's got to change. So what changed? Talk to me about that.
I'll tell you what changed, and this is the funniest story. I had to sell the car, right? So, and I ended up selling it to a 25-year-old. Okay, I was still living in the Bay Area in San Francisco. I ended up selling to a 25-year-old Vietnamese kid. Okay, right, nice kid, right? But like I was thinking when I was talking to him on the phone, I was saying a 25-year-old buying my Lotus, and it's very expensive, even used. It's still very expensive, right? I thought I was going to get carjacked and everything. So we're meeting at Starbucks. He comes in a dress in like a suit and everything, right? And I was saying, wow, this is a sharp dressed kid, and he's driving the car, and we're talking, and he's driving like a grandma, right? And I was thinking, this thing goes 0 to 60 in like under 5 seconds, right? Yeah. I said, are you going to speed up? And he's, no, I'm just buying it just to show success where I am. I said, great. And I said, so I asked, so what do you do? And then he turned to me, he smiled like this. I sell drugs, right? And I was like, oh my God, right? Like literally at that point in my life, for that split second, I was thinking, I'm getting carjacked, right? And first thought is like, I left minute at Starbucks. It's like, are we going back, right? Like, and then he said, no, Andy, I'm kidding. I sell nutritional supplements,
Oh,
right? So
wait. That's so interesting. You knew you had to change. You sold that car and you closed the door, and God or the universe, whatever word you want to use, brought you something immediately to let you know that, oh my God, this is the exact right thing for you to be doing at this moment.
exactly. Exactly, right. And then of course, he bought my car. And of course I'm interested. I was like, what? You selling vitamins and you can afford a $40,000 car.
Yeah.
Right. And then, we end up having another meeting at Starbucks and he's telling me about these amazing supplements and everything. And I've been taking supplements for the last 25 years. I've been taking the ones from Costco.
Yeah.
The doctors you just go buy the cheapest one. They're all the same, right? So, I've been believing them. I've been
They're
buying the
not
ones.
all the same, Andy. They're not all the same.
Oh,
Clarify that
hell
with me
no.
right now.
Exactly. And it's funny. And then he said, hey, look, your back problems and all this. This is going to help, right? And meanwhile, he's trying to sell me a package, right? And meanwhile, Minnesota giving me the googly eyes. It's time to go, because we've been sitting at Starbucks for the last hour, right? And the kid goes, Andy, I know this is going to help you, right? Just try it. And then I said, okay, look, I'll just buy it all. I said, just give me your biggest package, just buy it all. And he says, don't worry, there's a 30-day money back guarantee. And I was thinking in my head, I knew I was going to ask for my money back, right? Because like I
Right.
said, I was on supplements and drugs for, gosh forbid, 23 years by that time. And it was 2 weeks in taking those supplements that one day I rolled out of bed and I said, hey, baby, something's wrong. And the last time I said that to Minna is when I had a kidney stone and we had to go to the hospital, right? And she's saying, "Oh shit, oh shit, oh shit, hold on, let me get dressed and we'll drive you to the hospital." And I said, "No, check this out." I literally just swung my foot to the side of the bed and I sat up. And that was like, holy crap, I was not being able to do that probably for 15 years. Right. And that's what got me to do what I'm doing today. Okay. Like literally, it was the start of supplements. And then my deep dive was going to the company, figuring out why is it different. And then from there, I started going from supplements and everything else where I am today. But yeah, it's like you said, it's like on the worst moment of my life, you know, like you said, God showed me someone to look at a different direction.
That's so interesting. It's like, and then, but here's the thing. You were aware that you needed to change, right? You were
Oh
aware
yeah.
that you needed to change. And you and when he was trying to sell you this big package and you bought the whole thing, you have the 30, okay, I got a 30-day money back guarantee. I'll use it for see, and when it doesn't work, this is a safe purchase for me.
Yep.
Uh, I can walk away and I can say I tried.
Exactly. At that point, to be honest, I just wanted to shut the kid up and leave. I was sitting there for an hour because, like I said, it's like I already seen the best specialists. I've been on all the special drugs and everything. Is like Western medicine already said, look, we've done the best we can. This is life. Accept it. And I sort of accepted. I wanted something more, but I didn't know what. And then here's this guy promising me, and at that point, like you said, it's like, what do I got to lose? Right? It's like I'm feeling like crap, literally in my head. What do I got to lose? Like, worst come to worst, I get my money back in 30 days, right? But it's like if this kid has promised me the moon, what do I got to lose?
Okay, so it's working and you're having, I don't want to say no pain, you're having less pain, right?
Oh yeah.
So you're having less pain, you're more mobile. What does that do for your life and your relationship with your wife?
Well, first of all, I was less angry because I was in less pain, right? And I'm not gonna say everything was rainbows and unicorns within weeks, right? Like it was literally, a journey 6 months to a year before I got to the point that it was very little pain. And, I'm glad to say I don't have any pain now and totally off medication for the last 9 years. Actually, the last, oh geez, 2025 now. So for the last 10 years, I've been like off complete every medication, right? And I've been doing this for 13 years now. But, the first thing is I started dreaming about what I'm going to be doing in 5 years. Because already in your head, you're already pigeonholed on what you can or cannot do. And in my head, there's a lot of the things that I couldn't do anymore, right? Just to share a little bit of pain out there for maybe some of your audience out there, because a lot of people see me the way I am now. I'm always bouncing around and like the Energizer Bunny. But back in the day, I could not sit for more than 5 minutes or stand for more than 5 minutes without being in a lot of pain. Like it's like, we'll go watch a movie or we'll go sit down and I can't get up from my chair if I sit for more than 5 minutes. So imagine that, right? As opposed to now, I can actually get up. So it's like all of a sudden, it's like, wow, in my head, I was like, wow, we can start traveling again. Because we did a lot of travels in my 30s and I love traveling, right? But like I said, when we hit 40, we already saw, okay, we're probably not going to travel anymore. It's like, I had IBS. Anytime I ate within 10 minutes, I'm going to the restroom. It's like, where are you going to go if you travel, right? So,
Oh, wait,
things,
wait, wait.
things
For those people that don't know what IBS is, so IBS is when you have to be near a bathroom. Just to make it
yes.
very, very easy, we don't need to give great details here, but either look it up or know that you
Yeah.
need to be in a close distance to a bathroom at all times.
Yeah, and it's just not convenient going out to eat. And for people that know me and Minna, we're foodies. I love to eat. Even now, I love to eat, even as a functional nutrition coach. And to be able not to eat or to be always close to home because you're gonna have let's just say an explosive moment. It was you can't plan stuff like that, right? Like how can you plan? I'm not even talking about long distance travel, but to even going for a road trip was difficult.
That I can imagine. So what changed for your wife when you got healthy?
The funny thing is, she was, we've been together for a long time now,
How
and
long?
oh my God, you're making me do the math. We've been together since 1988. It is now 2025. So what?
7 years.
That's 30, yeah, 37 years. So yeah,
I
we've been
did that
together for a
fast
long
for you.
time.
That was good, right?
Yeah, it's been a while. Right. But it is really funny because one of the things that me, Minna, my wife's name is Minna, we joke about is we'll look at all my pictures from my 20s right through my 30s, right? And every single picture, I'm like this. Like there's no smile, it's just a stern face. And during the time, it's because, reflecting back now, I was in so much pain, I couldn't smile. But in my head, I thought I was looking cool, like the Fonz, right? You're not smiling, you're just cool. But every single picture from my 43rd birthday and on, I'm smiling in every single one. And it's like, wow, like what a difference. Like a lot of people don't realize the things your body isn't doing, right? But you see it. People see that, they see the energy, right? So, needless to say, I'm a little bit more pleasant to be around, and she was always supportive, right?
Keep her.
But yeah, yeah, she is. Like to be honest, I don't know half the stuff that we went through, and we never really had arguments. I'm not saying it was a bad relationship in that aspect, but I was a difficult SOB. So and she stuck with me, and like I said, life's good now. Life's good now. That's all I can say.
I mean, that sounds wonderful. So how long have you been and you teach people about eating healthy, right? And
Yes.
supplements. And so with is there anything in particular that you recommend that people look at for themselves that would make a huge difference in their like overall health? Just like so here, let me use me as an example, right? I don't
Mhm.
really have any pain. I don't have any pain. I never have had any pain. I've been very lucky that
Mhm.
I mean, aside from getting injuries, I like day to day, I have no pain. I roll
Right.
out of bed just fine. I'm a little stiff maybe.
Yeah.
Um, and yet I know I'm not feeling my optimal self. What
Correct.
would be something that you could recommend for me to do because I'm not feeling my optimal self, although I can't pinpoint anything in particular?
Well, there's a couple of things I would like to bring up, right? The first ones, or the easy, obvious one, is get more rested sleep, right? A lot of people think that sleep is about how long you sleep, but it's actually the quality of sleep, right? So there's like a whole ritual that starts from when you actually get up, which will help you sleep better. Like that may sound weird. Like a lot of people think, oh well, if I'm sleeping, it's I just need to worry about the hour before I sleep. But it's not true, like to sleep well, you really have to reset your body to be ready to sleep, later that evening. And the best thing to do that I always tell everyone is, and it depends where you are right now, but we're in summer everywhere. We got sun now, right? So the first thing I tell most people to do is like, as soon as, there's sun, when the sun is out, right? Is go out there, go for a short walk, whatever, the 5, 10 minutes, but literally get the sun shining on your face. And it's almost like a little reset button that God gives you that, okay, you're awake now. And now the clock starts ticking when it's time to sleep. And when your body gets that flash of sunlight, it resets your circadian rhythm and it gets your body getting ready to build melatonin for sleep later. Right. So that is one thing that everyone really needs to do, It's like, and some people say, well, I'm not an early riser. I said, it doesn't matter. Just go out there, take some fresh air, even if it's cold, and come back in. But just get some sun because I think everyone, especially now with the last 4 years, with the whole, with the whole stay at home. So many people are so used to staying at home, and all the unnatural light is just messing up our sleep.
Yeah. So how long would you suggest somebody be outside and getting some sun?
Oh, gee, it doesn't even need to be long. That 5, 10 minutes.
5, 10 minutes.
Yeah, yeah. For me, I every morning I'm out there. I'm just watering my garden, so it's like I'm out there for that 10 minutes, right? And if you can get, wear as little as possible. I'm not telling people to go out in their bath, but you want the sunlight to hit your body, right? So because it really does charge you. It's funny, like human beings, and this is something I never knew back in the day, but human beings, like we're electrical beings, right? The sun actually charges us, right? The light actually charges us. So to be able to go out there and in the day of iPhones, Samsung phones, and everything, everyone's always plugging in. People aren't plugging in and going out first thing in the morning. That is that burst of energy that we all need to do to get better sleep.
Okay, so go get
Yeah.
some sun. And then after I get my sun, what am I doing then? Give me another one. One more.
Yeah, after sun, like that's the most easiest one. The second one I would say is everyone needs to be hydrated. And the funny thing is, you hear about drinking half your body weight, drink your water, but it's also important to get electrolytes in your water, right? And if you're eating well, you're probably okay, like cucumbers, bananas, like anything that has, the minerals, calcium, potassium, magnesium. If you got a balanced diet, you're probably getting your electrolytes. But if you're eating out all the time, like most people, where you're not getting these vitamins and minerals, you may need electrolytes, right? So some people can get electrolyte solution to add to the drinks. I just throw in Celtic sea salt in my, a pinch of Celtic sea salt in my water, right? Because your body,
He's terrible.
no, your body gets used to it. When I drink regular water now and it's not salty, it's weird, right? It's like, right. The other thing you can do is if you find that it's too salty, squeeze some lemon juice in it, and then it just becomes really good, right? But I think it's really important to get your electrolytes in because a lot of people, if you're just drinking water, you can actually be too much water because your body doesn't actually absorb the water. The electrolytes will help you absorb water. So that's a pretty big thing for, to stay hydrated. I think that everyone is dehydrated without even knowing it.
So here's another question for you. What kept you going through your challenges before you had your breakthrough? Well, what were you thinking? What was in your head? For example, right? Like I know that I just need to pick myself up and keep on going because this too shall pass. But you were stuck in 20 years in all this pain. What kept you going?
You know, to be honest, what kept me going is how I was brought up and that clock that was ticking in my head that we're not making enough money before I can't work anymore.
Ah, that's interesting.
You know, think because most people will think, well, you know, retirement age 65, 70. If you're
Yeah,
healthy, you can work all the way up to 70, 80, 90, whatever.
yeah.
But in my mind, it's like, you know, first of all, at 21, they already told me by 30, 40, you're gonna have a body of a 70-year-old. So I was already believing it. It's like in my 40, I was like, man, I'm 70. How much more can I work? And I, you know, I could feel it. Like, you know, my energy wasn't there. I was having more brain fog.
Yeah.
And I just was not as productive as I was, even like a short 3, 4 years ago. So it was really that clock that kept ticking, like tick tock, tick tock. We're not gonna be able to retire, you know, next 5 years. But, you know, you get that worry of what's gonna happen, right? Are we gonna have enough? Are we gonna keep our house? You know what I'm saying? There's a lot of things that go through
I
that may
was
seem
not
illogical.
I was not expecting you to say that. That like I thought you were going to say something like, "Oh, my wife kept me going," or "This kept me going." That's so interesting because it just shows how different everybody is, and different things make different people tick. And that's such a great story. I'm so glad that you're so pain free right now. Was there any point in your life when you wanted to give up?
I have to be honest, no.
Good.
I'm a stubborn SOB.
We like
I think I got that from my dad. You know, like my dad was stubborn. You know, the other thing is, as I was suffering through my 40s, my dad was suffering through Parkinson's. And, you know, he lived for an extra 12 years confined to a wheelchair and being helped out of bed for 12 years before he died. He lived to 87. But this last 12 years, and that, you know, and that sort of coincided with the years that I was in my, you know, late 30s to 40. I was worried. I was looking at him and I was thinking, this is what my life's going to look like in 3, 4 years. Right. So, you know, it was almost like he, he indirectly cheered me on to do something about it. You know what I'm saying? He didn't really say it to my face, but, you know, it was almost like a, unspoken understanding is like that don't be like me. You know, I see you heading in that direction. And that was a wake-up call. Like, you know, of course I did everything as best as I can for my wife. Don't get me wrong, I love my wife, right? But already I was already trying for the last 20 years to get better and I wasn't, right? You know.
Well, that's great that, and here's another thing. You were where you needed to change, and then you were able to see it in front of you that you had an opportunity with this person that was buying your Lotus
Yes,
and gave you an opportunity, and what did you have to lose? I mean, you tried so many other things. What's one more? Because
exactly.
because what's one more? Because you just want it to work. I know one. So I have a question for you. See those cars behind you?
Yes.
Is any one of them a Lotus?
No, they're actually all Legos, and it's funny, you know, when people come into our house and people are expecting kids running in our house, and me, and I don't have kids, you know. I think, you know, we call ourselves the foolish couple is because we're quirky, we're foolish, we do not act our age, and we like collecting toys, right? And to be honest, Lego, you know, in a previous life, you know, all my everything I do was about fast cars. Like that's what my businesses were in. It's making cars faster. So I still always will have a passion for fast cars and stuff like that. And I back in the day, you know, that there was those Ferraris, McLarens, Bugattis. I even have a Batmobile. But you know, cars is always going to be part of my passion, right? Because that's what I grew up with. But you know, now it's like I'm just so passionate of just sharing with people that, you know, don't listen when someone says you can't, right?
Yeah,
You know,
right.
because once you start believing that you can't, right? You know what you believe is going to happen, right? And I think for me, it was like for so many years I believed in everybody, right? And I was saying, oh my God, imagine if I met this kid 10 years earlier. Like, you know, and I try not to think that way, right? You know, that would have been 10 years less of suffering. But, you know, but the point is now, that's why I'm so passionate is like, you know, even when I'm talking to people, it's like we all suffer stuff along the way. And the sooner you get off your feet and start saying you can, then
Can.
things will change for you. Things
And you
will
can.
change for you. Yeah, and you can.
And you said what you believe is true, and that's what Henry Ford said, whether you believe you can or whether you believe you can't, you're right.
That's right, and it's funny because we hear these inspiration quotes all the time, but we never take it to heart. And I believe sometimes it's meeting the right person, the right message, like meeting you, Lisa, meeting me, where you inspired by a story from someone else that maybe had a similar story that maybe you can, and you just need to take that first step.
Okay, so I have a fun question for you because we want to, we're serious. We're talking about the inner work, and we also want to have a little fun here too. So, what's something that's unexpected that brings you joy that might surprise us?
Something unexpected that brings you joy. Oh my gosh. That's a good question.
Uh-huh. I like it.
Um, I think something unexpected that brings me joy would be when out of the blue, someone just calls me and says, I was just thinking about you and I thought we'll connect.
Oh yeah, that's really nice. That's sweet. Don't you love those phone calls? I think they're
Yeah,
great.
yeah, like you just totally don't expect it, or even a text, right? All of a sudden you get a text from someone, and it's almost like you're thinking, "Oh, I haven't talked to this person for ages," and then you get that text, right? And like that sometimes just really lights me up. Or, sometimes I have someone that text me 6 months later and say, Andy, I am the best shape I am now because of you. And I haven't talked to him for 6 months after, I worked with them. These are the little unexpected things that really brings me joy for sure.
Oh yeah, this is I love this journey. I love talking to people because I just like to talk. I remember being a kid and I used to sit in the other room because I used to watch a lot as a children and I used to watch the adults and my parents talked a lot. And
Right.
that's what they did. Like
Yeah.
they went to different people's houses, they socialized and they talked. And
Mhm.
I remember thinking as a kid, what am I gonna do with that? Because we know we pick up some of their habits. And
Oh,
look,
for sure. Yeah.
here I am now on a podcast talking, and I think it's awesome. I think it's
No,
awesome.
you're a natural to bring it out with people, and I think sometimes those are our gifts, right? I think for most people, everyone thinks it's you want to keep everything to yourselves because no one wants to know, and that's the way it used to be. Like I was very secretive a lot of my life, a lot, and now it's like I'm an open book. It's like if there's something that I can share to inspire someone, I'm gonna share it with the world. Right. And we all have something to share with people, right? And your gift, oh my God, like um you've been on my show before, and we're gonna have you again on our show. And your gift is something that more people need to learn more of. And I think it's just amazing how you just get people to open up. I think that's just amazing.
I know it's one of my superpowers. People just tell me their secrets, and I'm good at keeping them, which also is always very helpful. So I have one more question for you because we're gonna wrap up soon. So I want to know. Okay, what tool or belief, because this is my last question I have it written down. So if it looks like I'm reading, it's because I am. And so what tool or belief or lesson helped you the most when you were at your lowest point? Or, if someone was listening and they're in their point where they're in their ashes like the phoenix, just waiting to be reborn into their new life, right? What would you want them to know?
I think what for a lot of us, when we hit rock bottom, right? And everyone keeps thinking, well, how much further can I drop down? And you see that as a bad thing, right? For me, it's like, well, look how much higher you can rise now from where you've fallen down. Right. And it's just like for me, it's like for 20 years, I believed in all this pain and suffering that was brought upon by someone else to me. And I thought I was being punished. Right. And it's just something, my family's Buddhist and everything. So you believe in karma. And in the back of my head, like did a previous life that do something stupid. Like you try to rationalize your life, right? Because life is shitty. But when I got up that day and just started believing again, it's like, oh my gosh, I literally jumped 5 foot out of that pit I was sinking in.
Yeah.
How much higher can I jump? And I think that's something to get excited about because so many people think that they're dropping so deep and they can't dig themselves out of the hole. It gives you so much more to get out of that hole, and that's to me, that's just exciting. Right. For some of us, it may take a little longer. It's always going to be a journey. And I don't think I'm completely out of the hole, but man, I'm reaching for the stars, baby. It's like there's no limit once you figure out because you're dropping down. There's always a rock bottom. But when you're going up, there is no limit. Right. And I think that's where that people need to start believing that. Stop thinking about, oh man, this sucks. This sucks. Well, okay. Well, it sucks so bad, but what if? How much better can it be now since it's hit rock bottom? And I think a lot of people just don't think that way, and it does take a clicking moment for it to happen. So look for your inspiration. Look for your inspiration. It may be from the weirdest thing. It came from a Vietnamese kid that I thought was a drug dealer, right? So. It comes in the weirdest places that will get you out of that rut.
All right. So Andy, last question. So where can people find you, follow you so they continue to learn from you?
Love that. My website is chronicallyhealthylife.com. And the easiest way to get a hold of me is set up a free 30-minute consult at longevitywithandy.com. And I would love to reach out to all your audience and, help them in any which way I can.
Oh, that's awesome. So I just want to wrap it up here. So I'm Lisa Manzo, host of The Phoenix Mind, and I'm grateful that Andy was my guest today, and he talked through his emotion and his emotional intelligence, because you can see that he's very emotionally intelligent. He became aware of what he needed to change. He was able to manage his emotions and do what he needed to do to get a different result. And this has been awesome. I'm so glad you were here. Thank you for being my guest. And again, I'm Lisa Manzo. We're on the Phoenix Mind podcast, where we're talking through the inner work. Thank you for coming today, and thank you for watching the episode. And we'll see you in the next one. Or at least I'll see you in the next one.
This is the Phoenix Mind, where the fiery finds. Together we rise, transform our lives. So subscribe.